Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the relatively common bug fairy-type Pokemon Cutiefly and its uncommon evolution Ribombee, collectively known as the Bee Fly Pokémon. While they might look cute and harmless to most, the members of the Cutiefly family are still decent fighters that can make good use of their agility to make themselves look like more than just a series of adorable or pretty faces. Cutiefly have yellow bodies that are ovoid in shape with a whitish frill of hair on their posterior, with 4 thin black legs that end in ball-shaped appendages mainly used as weights for anchoring them to objects. Their faces have a few stray white hairs with large blackish-yellow eyes, a single thin brown needle-like proboscis, and thin delicate wings on their back with a ring-like brown marking at their base. The evolved form, Ribombee, have a more humanoid appearance to them, with the legs being differentiated clearly into arms and legs with a more upright form when in flight, and a smiling face that looks both cute and warm, their form of proboscis now absent. Their wings have a loopier, almost honeycomb-like brown pattern at their base, and their faces are white with a yellow head and furry extension at their waist leading down to the lower torso. This look is completed by a large brown organic scarf of sorts that wraps around the base of their neck, its 2 ends splitting downward and away from their sides, completing their almost magical look. The members of the Cutiefly family, though technically not bees in their form and being more closely related to bee flies, as the species name denotes, are known for otherwise very much acting like bees, gathering pollen and nectar from flowers on a constant basis. Instead of living in a hive, however, they tend to live in large communal groups and are able to use internal processes to process the substances and create honey on their own, which is what Cutiefly dominantly feed on. Ribombee do not bother doing so, and instead feed on pollen alone as a crunchy snack, but the honey provides a longer-lasting source of nutrition and is therefore more effective for these creatures to have at a young age in case they need to hide from predators for extended periods of time. These creatures will gather in flower fields on clear days so long as there is good weather forecasted for several days in a row, flitting about flowers and creatures like gossifleur in their attempts to gather food resources and rarely ever resting from their activity, but will duck out of the way as soon as it starts to rain. This is especially the case for Ribombee, as not only does the pollen they keep on them become inedible when it becomes wet, but if it also absorbs enough water to weigh them down while flying, it presents a notable danger for them to have to deal with in these circumstances. Ribombee are even able to use their advanced fairy force powers to predict the weather in the short term, so they can make the most of their time outside. Their tendency for being able to make honey on the fly, as well as the powdered dust that naturally coats their hairs, allows these creatures to have honey gather and shield dust as base abilities, while those that make particularly sweet honey can have the sweet veil ability as a hidden ability. In regards to their stats, for Ribombee, their frail forms more than correlate with their base stats, as they are not suited for extensive combat in close quarters. However, they can still use special attacks with considerable effectiveness and are quite agile, their base special attack and speed stats being above average for fully evolved bug and fairy-type Pokemon, in particular also possessing the highest base speed stat out of all non-legendary fairy-type Pokemon. As such, while they might not always be able to hit extremely hard, they can still make an offensive impact from afar and prove to be an agile target that can be extremely difficult to hit consistently. While Cutiefly are fairly basic in their biology outside of their unique fairy force powers, they are unique in that they are one of the few creatures that can readily see the aura given off by living organisms. This helps them because flowers that are close to blooming tend to radiate a great deal of aura energy from them, and thus very easy for these creatures to identify this way to get the freshest pollen and nectar from them possible. This saves them valuable time in looking for resources, and time is energy and thus must be well spent by these creatures in the wild if they wish to survive. Funnily enough, however, the same degree of energy given off by flowers in this state can be very similar to that of humans undergoing extreme emotional states, both good and bad, and it is therefore not uncommon to see large swarms of these creatures flutter into cities, confusing people with flowers in this state as they go about their daily lives. This works fine for people though, as children often enjoy playing with these creatures when they do appear, and the fun seems to be mutual. Even if they accidentally do put themselves into a difficult position, they are not totally defenseless, as they can use their aura detecting abilities to analyze their opponent's aura and predict their movements with a considerable degree of accuracy, dodging around their attacks and striking while they are open, or otherwise using the opportunity to fly away to safety. Much like their pre-evolved form, Ribombee spend much of their lives simply collecting pollen and nectar from flowers in order to make honey for their sustenance. They are different, however, in that they generally reserve the production of honey for emergency circumstances only, instead preferring to eat the pollen that they gather as a quick source of fuel. In fact, these creatures are particularly gifted in that they have the ability to use their saliva to stick clumps of pollen together to form large balls of the substance, which they then eat as a quick and surprisingly tasty snack. What truly makes this special, however, is that the taste and the effects of eating these pollen puffs, as they are called, can depend very much on the flower that they were originally gathered from, and thus have a myriad array of effects on the consumer. This is reflected in their signature attack, the pollen puff attack, which they gain access to immediately after evolving, and whose effects change depending upon who the target is. On the one hand, if the attack is directed towards the opposition, the user will create a pollen puff out of the pollen of a toxic flower, and when the opposition eats the puff out of curiosity, it can damage them considerably and cause a host of internal problems like dizziness and paralysis. Even if they don't eat it, explosive compounds made from a mixture of the toxins and Ribombee's saliva will cause it to ignite shortly after production, exploding in the face of its target. On the other hand, if the move is used on an ally, Ribombee will instead use the pollen from a normal flower to create the move, and these pollen puffs are often highly nutritious, having a healing effect on the target and restoring half of their maximum HP. Outside of combat scenarios, these pollen puffs are sold in the Alola region as a delicacy and are a favorite treat among young children, and the Ribombee that produce them seem to have no qualms about sharing their treats, as they will often give them to Pokemon and humans in general that they get along with. Nonetheless, Ribombee can be powerful creatures to have to go up against with the right help on their side, so it's not surprising to see that one particular Ribombee serves as the current totem Pokemon at Sea Folk Village of Pony Island in the Alola region, flying about in the winds of the sea and the flower fields of the Wild Island and waiting to challenge trainers that wish to pass the Fairy-type trial. While they might seem a bit frail in form and not the most dangerous of Pokemon, the members of the Cutiefly family are still potent creatures that can prove to be a challenge to take on without the power needed to resist their special attacks. They can certainly be friendly and easy to interact with, but get on their bad side, and these little insectoid sprites can make their presence known and show while they are not all just looks and no power. Just do yourself a favor and make sure that you keep them happy and pay attention to where they are gathering their resources from before they make a snack for you. They can certainly make some lovely, if unconventional treats, but put them in a bad mood and their offered snack might do little other than give you some digestive problems and prove why you should know where your food source is coming before you decide to chow down on something blindly. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description. With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.